India is among the last surviving idol worshipping cultures. Even today, there'll be many who will say that idol worshipping is silly. They may not say that idol worshippers should be killed. We grew up with our traditions, with our scriptures, with our philosophies.
We have mentioned the concept of the Ishtadevata in our book. It's our chosen deity.
We don't think that the divine is a singular male god who exists outside the universe and the universe is all profane and guilt-ridden. No. We see the entire universe, everything as divine. You will find what resonates with you, and that's a philosophy we try and build in that. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it is completely natural because you will find what works for you.
Hello and welcome to the Times of India. Today we have with us not one but two distinguished authors, Amish Tripathi and his elder sister Bhavana Roy. So Amish and Bhavana ji, they have both written a new book together called Idols, which is about worshipping idols, specifically in Hinduism. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Surabhi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Surabhi.
So without further ado, I'll dive into the questions. So the first question is very obvious. What was the inspiration of writing this book?
Much of the ancient world was actually idol worshipping, most of it actually. And many of them have died out, many of them were violently killed off actually. India is among the last surviving idol worshipping cultures. And yet, we don't understand idol worshipping as deeply, Murti Puja as deeply. Even today, there'll be many who will say that idol worshipping is silly. They may not say that idol worshippers should be killed, as was told maybe a century or a few centuries ago. But they'll call it silly, they'll call it stupid. We think perhaps that India is, or Hindus are exhibiting a version of the battered wife syndrome. It is a psychological concept. Sadly, many women who sadly get beaten by their husbands end up blaming themselves for it, that they did something which forced their husband to beat them. And if some friend comes and tells them it's not your fault, it's your husband's fault, they'll get angry with that friend, right? And perhaps we Hindus are actually exhibiting a version of this battered wife syndrome, rather than seeing the beauty and intuitive liberalism of idol worshipping and Murti Puja, the philosophical power of Murti Puja and idol worshipping. We ourselves have started believing, no, it must be wrong. If for 2000 years everyone has been saying it's been wrong, invaders have attacked us and attacked people around the world and killed people for it, then it must be wrong. And I think it's time that we speak of it, speak of the beauty of it, speak of the intuitive liberalism of it. And idol worshipping does not preach hatred against idol rejectors. We don't have that approach. We just say that there is beauty in this approach. We see the divine in everything. Let's explore it. That's what we're trying to do with this book, Idols.
So why have you written the book now? Any particular context of,
Why have we written the book now? Actually, Surabhi, to go back in time, this is I'm sharing something personal. I lost my husband in 2018, and I had sunk into the depths of depression. I had lost the will to live. It was the most terrible phase of my life. For over 2 years, I was adrift. I was drowning. I was simply drowning. When COVID began and there was a shutdown, my brother was actually in London, and I imagine he must have gotten particularly worried about me, given my state of mind. Now I am homebound. And he called me up and said, Didi, let's restart the project that we had been working on before my husband fell ill. So now I rewind further to around 2013-14 because my husband fell ill in 2016. So the manuscript was largely the basic manuscript of ideas. was largely ready by around 2014-15. We restarted once the lockdown began, and I'm extremely grateful to my brother because he pulled me out of that horrible morass that I was really sinking into, and re-gifted me the purpose to go on living. We worked on that initial manuscript that I had written, and that manuscript has actually worked over the two books, Dharma and Idols. So the work on it began a very long time ago. It has fructified now.
Right. So Bhavna ji, the next question is again for you. Did writing help you in some way to get out of the phase, the disturbing time that you were going through at that point in 2018?
Absolutely. I jumped into it post March 2021 as if it was a lifeline. There was a part of me that had begun to understand that I owe it to myself as well as the lovely man I was married to once again replug into life and replug into the good life. And I understood that this was the means because, shorn of everything, we live for happiness and we live for purpose. We need purpose, and I had lost both my happiness and my purpose, and in helping me find my purpose for living, he brought me back to joy as well.
All right. Since both the books that you have co-authored, Dharma and Idols, they're both so related to religion and spirituality. What importance does spirituality hold in your lives? Like, this question is for both of you.
At a very deep level. We come from a very traditional family, and a very education-obsessed family. Our grandfather, from our father's side, was a Pandit at Varanasi, at Vishwanathji, and he was a teacher at Banaras Hindu University. He used to teach maths and physics. Our grandmother from our mother's side was also a teacher, a deeply religious, traditional woman. So there was this atmosphere in our family. We grew up with our traditions, with our scriptures, with our philosophies. And as Didi said, we passed through a very difficult personal phase as an entire family for 7-8 years. Many, one after the other, many things kept happening. And at points like this, you realize the value of a strong family. If you have strong family bonds, you can get through whatever difficulties life throws at you. Because in this case, we couldn't even blame anyone. It was fate just hurting us. What do you do? You have to face whatever has to be faced. It happened repeatedly. But the second thing that you realize is the value of the philosophies that you learn, that one learned from our traditions, from the dharmic traditions, because that helps you make sense and get through this such a phase. Which is why we genuinely believe the dharmic traditions. It's not just it's not just about faith. It's about teaching you philosophies which can help you through life, which can help you lead a more meaningful life, a better life. Look, all of us suffer. There's no one, as Gautam Buddha had said, as the Vedas say, there's no one who escapes grief. It's a part of life. Everyone suffers it. Some get more, some get less, but everyone suffers it. We have to learn how to cope with it, live with it, and lead a better life, so that you emerge stronger from whatever life throws at you.
To add to that, absolutely, Amish and I come from deeply religious, deeply traditional, paramparic life also family life, also a very liberal family life. So we were born into the puja part, the rituals. We were born into it, and the bonding, the fun, the festivities, the khel kood of our way of life. In our youth, both me as well as Amish went through, that mandatory period of questioning and wondering. And then, throwing ourselves as we grow older into deeper exploration. Idol worshipping, specifically, we have mentioned the concept of the Ishta Devata in our book. It's our chosen deity. And in the Hindu way of life, we don't choose our deity. The deity chooses us, the Devi or the Devta. It's a little like falling in love. You don't know why, you feel that visceral pull towards one human being among the hazaro lakhon, but you do. And the 2.5 years that my husband and I fought that battle, I know that was the only period of time when Devi Ma, Durga Ma chose me. She became my Ishta Devi, never before and never after. But those 2.5 years, she pulled me. She pulled me again and again and again. I would go to her temple and I would cry. I would break down. I would bring out my, not just fear, my sheer terror, my desperation, and pour it out, into her lap, and then go back to fighting the battle. I know she helped me. I don't make my mind try and explain it, but the greatest human minds have said that really in life we understand nothing except through experience. I experienced the power of the Ishta Devata. In my case, it was the Ishta Devi in that period. Amazingly so, Ma has let go of me now, but she held my hand. Why was it Ma? And what happened to me in that period? My mind doesn't ask. My heart knows.
Okay. So coming back to your book, there's a very interesting line that I found in one of the chapters, and I'll quote you. Each person resonates with different frequencies, connecting them to chosen gods and goddesses. Exactly what you were saying right now. And on another page you have written, and I quote, "As you change through life, your Isht Devta subtly changes." If you could elaborate that idea a bit.
Yeah, no, certainly true. Because the entire concept in the dharmic way of life, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and I would include Indian Islam, Indian Christianity also in it. They are in many ways fundamentally different from how Islam and Christianity is practiced outside India. Firstly, we see divinity in everything. We don't think that the divine is a singular male god who exists outside the universe and the universe is all profane and guilt-ridden. No. We see the entire universe, everything as divine. The earth is divine. You and I are divine. Everything is divine, right? And therefore, there is multiplicity in divinity because there are different forms. And because all of us are different, we find a different Ishta Devta or Devi who works, who we connect to. And it doesn't mean that my Ishta Devi or Devta is right and yours is wrong. No, you're different, so you'll find someone else. I'm different, I'll find someone else. It's like both of us can't be in love, all of us can't be in love with one person. It's impossible. And it doesn't mean that my love is superior to your love. That's a silly statement to make, right? So all of us, since we have different characteristics, we find a different Ishta Devta. So I am by nature a rebellious person. So for me, Lord Shiva is a natural god who I get attracted to. Didi used to, her Ishta Devta used to be Lord Shiva as well. And then during that terrible phase, she found Devi. And now I think she is more attracted to Lord Krishna from what I know. My elder brother, younger to her, Anish Dada, For him, Lord Ram is the Ishtadevta because he's a very compliant. He likes things to be ordered. He's a very compliant person, so obviously he's attracted to him. Ashish, who's my twin brother, his Ishtadevta is Lord Krishna. My wife is a Jain. She is attracted to her philosophy. Interestingly, she finds Sita Ma also very interesting, from what she's told me. Ashish's wife is a Christian and finds Jesus Christ attractive. All of us, our mother is a mother goddess, so all of us have our own different, and it's natural because you will find what resonates with you, and that's a philosophy we try and build in that. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it is completely natural because you will find what works for you. That's the way life is supposed to work.
When I was reading through the book, I found it to be very, it's written in a very conversational style. So, what was the idea and why was it written in this particular way?
Let me just explain this very quickly, and then I think Didi can answer this better. The Western non-fiction book, the average Western non-fiction book, is very much from the Western paradigm, which is that there is this one truth, everything else is wrong. You're going to go to heaven, you're all going to burn in hell for eternity, right? So the non-fiction book has very much that approach, the Western non-fiction book. This is the hypothesis, and my entire book is to convince you of this hypothesis. That's not the Indian way, because the Indian way has respect for different points of view. So if you see the way our Upanishads are structured, it's usually a conversation, and you have different points of view, right? Interestingly, even in the West, in their pagan phase, they used to have a similar approach. You must have heard of the Socratic dialogue, or the Platonic dialogue, which are normally written by Plato, where again you would have different characters showing different points of view, debating with each other, right? And then you don't necessarily say at the end of the book that this is the right view. You let the reader decide. You're intelligent. We are showing all points of view to you. Now you're intelligent, and you're leading your own life. So find the truth that works for you. So that's how this has been structured. Multiple different points of view in the same Upanishadic dialogue tradition. So there'll be a skeptic, there's a believer, and we show all points of view. You read it and then make up your own mind on what works for you. Didi, if you want to add something.
Surabhi, I must add over here that this conversational style was completely Amish's genius. So to continue the story, that began as an answer to your first question, the manuscript was, I restarted working on it in the month of March in 2021. Worked extremely hard because, like I said, it was my lifeline at the time. Working 12, 14 hours a day. And I think 3 months later, I sent the manuscript to Amish. And he called me up and very gently said to me, Didi, reading a little textbook and thoda academic hai. So I said, ab kya karu? So he said, aap mujhe kaam karne dijiye. And he created this family. This wonderful family, the old couple, Dharmaraj and Lopamudra, and their daughter Gargi, and the son-in-law Nachiket. The names themselves were Amish's genius because they hark back to our Upanishads and our Vedas, the names of the family, which I think you should Google and discover the root of where the names come from. He created this family and he converted it into a conversation. He also sifted the matter for dharma from the matter for idols, because like I said, it was one manuscript to begin with. 2 characters were added in idols, and I must mention the addition of these 2 characters, which was an interesting addendum to this cast. I was the one who first worked on idols, and we sent it to our editor, and blessed are those authors who are gifted with extremely tough editors. Very, very tough editors, because the first editing pushback was very strong, to say the least, in very explicit words. I balked because books are to authors what babies are to parents, and I balked. I was really taken aback and I didn't know what to do. I sent it to Amish. Amish read it and said, Didi, what I suggest is all these words of the editor, you put them verbatim into a character's mouth and then answer them. So thus was born Anirban, the skeptic. And those almost 80% of the words of Anirban are the editor's words. And once that work was done, he did feel that Anirban needed a foil, the skeptic Anirban, and thus was born the Dr. Adarsh. So this is purely Amish's genius.
Amish, coming back to what you said earlier, that our Upanishads were also written in this way, where there are people
Dialogues,
debating. These are dialogues. There are different perspectives. Even some of the Western thoughts,
ancient ones,
are also written in certain way. So where do you think things went wrong? We lost the art of debating and listening to different perspectives.
Can I answer this to begin with?
Yeah, please,
and then I'll give it to you. A single genius from millennia back, Aristotle.
With his poetry.
A very big man, a very big name, and we owe to him almost the systematic birth of reason and logic. But he laid down the rules of debate and he completely overturned his guru's way. Because Aristotle's guru was Plato, with his Platonic dialogues. Aristotle laid down the rules of the game of the new debating technique that exists and continues to this day.
Yeah, with that confidence, almost arrogance. This is the right way, and everything else is wrong. Whereas the Indian debating tradition, to be fair, the ancient Western, ancient Middle Eastern debating traditions gave the space for multiple points of view and understood that the universe and the world is too complex for simplistic binaries, good, evil, black, white. It's usually in shades of grey, and sadly, because of the influence of many of the colonial invaders who came to India, India is also absorbing some of this. Sadly, one sees that in our public debating square as well, and which is unfortunate. We should revive our own Vada traditions, and I think perhaps this is one of the things that we can teach to the West now, or remind the West that this was their ancient traditions as well. Let me give you an example. I was just at the Oxford Union debate just a few days back. I was speaking out there as well, and the debate was over that God is a delusion. You can imagine debating that in Oxford. Okay, now the team opposing us were of course all Western atheists, and their attacks were primarily on Christianity. I'm not a Christian, I'm a Hindu, but even I was some of their means of debating, the way they were speaking of Christianity and Jesus Christ, I was like thinking, look, you have every right to question, but there's this Hindi term, Shabdon ki Maryada, that there are some words that should not be used when you're speaking about religion or Jesus Christ. And I'm not a Christian. I was feeling bad. Yaar, ye kya tarika hai? Right? That value of manners, the value of having openness to different points of view, not seeing it in binaries, that's a good habit, and India can perhaps help the world revive it, but first we must revive it ourselves.
Bhavna ji, this question is for you. If you could tell me about your writing process, since this was the second book that you wrote together, and were there any difference of opinions with Amish? How did you resolve them as co-authors?
Writing process was fairly easy. My mother often says my daughter was born with a book in her hands. I love reading. I've been reading. In fact, reading is a passion for the entire family. As Amish often says, बच्चे सुन के नहीं सीखते हैं माँ बाप से, बच्चे देख के सीखते हैं. And children do what parents do and not what they say. My parents were avid readers, and all of us are very avid readers. From the early 30s, my bent of mind and my heart took me towards philosophical explorations. So the writing part was fairly simple. As for how the process of writing goes between Amish and I love to say this, that in the creative space, partnering is either impossible, it cannot happen, or it is a flow. There's nothing in between. With Amish and I, it's a flow. It's a beautiful flow. 3 reasons. The first, of course, is our mutual passion for philosophy, and specifically Indian philosophy and dharmic philosophy. The second reason is I'm older. I am 8 years older to him. So I'm not exactly his elder sister, I'm almost his mother, his second mother. And like I said, again, as an answer to your first question, we keep harking back to your first question. We are a deeply paramparic family, and we are extremely comfortable with hierarchy. And so there's a great deal of respect in this direction. There's a great deal of respect in the other direction as well, both because he earns the respect as a human being, and also in his craft. For crying out loud, this is Amish. What he doesn't know about writing is not worth knowing. So as for the last word, I completely understand that it always has been, it always will be, and it always should be Amish's.
No, but I should add, because we are discussing philosophies, it's not just because she's elder, but of course, yes, in our family it is. We are always very conscious of that, as it should be. It's what makes for a stable family of who's elder and who's younger. But also, actually, in our family, everyone reads a lot. But Papa and Didi were the ones who read a lot by far. Like, I would read only maybe 5-6 books a month. Didi reads far more, right? And particularly on philosophy. So, of course, I listen a great deal to her with respect when it comes to philosophies, because she just knows so much. Because in our family, we know most of our dharmic traditions because we grew up with it. But traditions outside of India, the ancient pagan traditions, which we Indians must realize were also equally deep. The ancient Greek traditions, ancient Egyptian traditions, the pagan traditions, the ancient. There's a lot to learn from there as well. And Didi has read a lot of that too, which actually ends up informing the book well. So I listen to her with a lot of respect.
Talking about your first book together, Dharma, if you would, how would you define Dharma in one line?
Oh. You can take many lifetimes exploring Dharma. The central part of all our scriptures, all our philosophy was always a central question: what is Dharma? Because it depends on the context, it depends on the yug you're in, it depends on what your Swadharma is.
So what is Dharma?
It's a very, I guess the best way I can define it, I'd love to have you add to this, but the root of the word Dharma, the Sanskrit dhatu, is dhru, that which sustains, that which binds, that which lasts. That's what Dharma is. It's not a list of do's and don'ts. So something that is in consonance and aids sustenance, aids balance, is what Dharma is. So, like to put it in practice, for example, in a very simple term, that non-violence is, and for all of us ordinary citizens, that is the right thing to do. Ahimsa paramo dharma. But a soldier at the border, his dharma is to carry out violence, because he's he is fighting enemies to protect all of us who stand behind him. So his dharma is dharma hinsa tathaeva cha, that to protect others he has to carry out violence. Similarly, even for us citizens, if my friends and I, we are walking on the road, we see a woman being attacked, should we say ahimsa paramo dharma and just stay at the back, or actually go in and try to help? Again, so it's all in the context. It depends on what, and this is just one very simple example. There are many, and this is at a very base level. They are at a much higher philosophical level what dharma is. So we can keep exploring this for years and decades and many lifetimes. So and we made a small attempt with the book Dharma, and Ideals actually is a companion edition to that. You can see it as a sequel, which just explores the question further. You wanna?
I don't think that needs any addition.
And lastly, are you writing a third book in the series or any other books that are planned in this?
There are several projects cooking in our joint heads, and one of them we have done substantial work on. Together we are going to, on his own he writes fabulous fiction. Together we intend to write in the field of our dharma and Indian culture. These are the two passions that Amish and I share, and the future books will be in one of these two directions.
Right. And last question to you, Amish. Again, a very obvious question. When is the last and fifth book coming out in the Ramchandra series?
That'll take some time. I have to start writing, which I will in a few months. For those who've read the Shiva trilogy and the Ramchandra series, you know that actually they are connected. The Ramchandra series, one of the ways of seeing it is a 1500-year prequel to the events of the Shiva trilogy. And the fifth book of the Ramchandra series can also be seen as the -1 book of the Shiva trilogy. And the title is Rise of Meluha. It will actually connect it all together. So there are clues I left in Immortals of Meluha in 2010, which will actually get tied up in this book. I'm really looking forward to writing it.
I guess a lot of readers are also looking forward to reading it now. Thank you so much for your time, and have a lovely day.
Thank you so much, Surbi. It was lovely.